to order at 6 o'clock. Notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the provisions of bylaw 0164B of the Riverside Local Board of Education, which was adopted in accordance with section 1.450 of the ORC and the Ohio Administrative Procedures Act. The bylaws of the Board of Education can be found in board docs. Mike, can you call the roll, please?
Scott Fishel,
Here.
Dennis Keeney,
Here.
Denise Brewster,
Here.
Belinda Grassi,
Here.
Lori Krenisky.
Here.
You stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section of the agenda. We need to make a motion to approve the appointment of Ms. Belinda Grassi as the treasurer pro tempore. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. You can take the roll.
Sure. Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky.
Aye.
Unfortunately, our treasurer, Gary Planko, found something out there that wasn't the most favorable to him, so he's taking the rest of today off
Not passing it to her.
and not wanting to pass it around.
Not sharing.
So, okay. All right, the approval of minutes.
Can I make a motion to amend the agenda?
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda by separating the April 17th, 2025 special meeting minutes out from the rest of the meeting minutes.
Okay, where is that?
It's one of the attachments.
It's on the second page.
Oh, it's an attachment to be looked up.
I'm just asking to vote March 20th and April 7th as one, and then April 17th as a second one. Because you were here. Yeah.
Okay, so you would like to remove the April 17th minutes and vote on that separately?
Yes.
Okay, and, all right, so, to remove this. And I've heard a motion to move those minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Dennis Keeney,
Here. Or, aye.
sorry. This is to just to move the amendment.
To separate them.
Yeah.
To
Okay, separate, right?
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye. Okay, motion carried.
I'd like to make an adjustment to the agenda.
You'd like to
also.
amend the agenda?
Yes, under buildings and grounds, number E and number F, the parking lot repair and resurfacing and the parking lot striping. I'd like to hold off on those for now until we review exactly how much repair needs to be done. We removed Riverview Elementary from that contract, but most of Riverview Elementary can be done also. The reason why that was removed was due to potential construction scheduling, but most of that parking lot will not be affected, so we're gonna look at it one more time and make sure we have everything in place before we go ahead and move forward. That'll affect line striping also, so it still will be done in the same timeline, but it just won't be approved tonight.
And what letters are those?
That would be E and F under buildings and grounds.
Okay, so you want to remove those from the agenda?
For tonight, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Olesik, does that, by removing them and postponing a vote on that, does that impact your schedule this summer at all?
I will make a reach out to the vendor that we are going to use and ask them to pencil us in. So we do have a placeholder, and advise them that we will be approving in May, but we would also like to meet with them, but I will assure that we have a placeholder somewhere on their schedule.
We still have to vote on removing those. Marie, do we have a second?
I didn't hear a second.
Okay. So,
We need a second.
We need
yeah,
a
I'll
second.
second that. And any further discussion on that? Can you take the roll,
Just to
please?
clarify, we're not
Yeah.
separating it out on the consent agenda, we're just adjusting.
We're
the
removing it.
consent agenda to
Yeah,
remove. I just want to make sure, is that legal? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we're removing it from the agenda. Okay, Mike, can you take the roll?
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keenan.
Aye.
Motion carried. And then make a motion to approve the minutes as attached, minus the April 17th, 2025 special meeting minutes. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
You take the roll, Mike?
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keenan,
Aye.
Denise Brewster.
Aye.
I make a motion to approve the April 17th, 2025 special meeting minutes. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Lori Krenisky,
I'm sorry.
Lori Krenisky,
Abstain.
abstain. Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keenan,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi.
Aye.
Special reports.
All right, thank you. I have two tonight. The first we're really excited about is introducing the board, as well as those who are watching, to our curriculum plan for kind of this year and the next 3 years forward, moving forward, called the Pathway to Excellence. A little introduction about this plan working. Our motto is educating excellence. It's on top of the cupola. And Riverside Local Schools is committed to continuous improvement through aligned systems that support high-quality instruction, data-driven decisions, and meaningful student outcomes. The Pathway to Excellence assures that we are truly one community pursuing greatness and getting better every day. This is a true strategic plan in the sense that we are taking all of the work that we have been done, putting it together, and really kind of focusing on what is important in terms of the outcomes that are expected. This is published to our website. It is forward-facing. We want to make sure that it's forward-facing, so we are transparent with our community as much as possible, and this is kind of how all of these things tie together. We often talk about a lot of these things using educator speak, and we try to take this and make it as clear and as transparent as possible, and the reasons to why we are doing this, why we are spending our professional learning time on it, and what our expected outcomes are. And it's something that we have really worked truly to make sure of it. It is really in-depth, and if we were to go over the whole thing tonight, it would be a very long meeting, and we would get lost in a lot of the minutiae. So we're going to hit just kind of an overview, specifically about implementation, how we're going to implement this plan, what we're going to do to implement it, and then kind of get to some of the 50,000-foot views of the basic outcomes and the goals and why we're doing that. So first of all, it's a 3-year implementation. The first year, we're actually in the first year of this implementation, really focusing on some of the really important things. One of those is this Riverside Way document, which has its own little wheel or spoke on the wheel. We'll get to that later, but it really is our blueprint for what teaching and learning looks like in every one of our classrooms and how that looks. It was designed by our teachers, put together by Dr. Malacher, and really ties into this competency-based personalized learning that we've talked a lot about, focusing on what students need individually. We also will talk about and have introduced instructional rounds that we have teachers, comes out of the medical field, but we have groups of educators take time to get into classrooms. This is coming from our district leadership team. They get into the classrooms and look for evidence of the Riverside Way instructional framework in there. We worked a lot about strengthening our multi-tiered system of supports at tier 1 level. That's basic instruction, meaning the 80% of our students get and master the content. We did begin a new curriculum. We were looking at a rigorous curriculum, and we started at the K2 level with the Wit and Wisdom Science and Reading curriculum. We're really excited about some of the outcomes that are there and coming from that. The other thing we did just the other night is introduced a Lakeland at RHS program where we are offering 32 credits, college credits on campus for students. So we have 32 different credits. A lot of them are ones that are students, they're the introductory classes that students like to take online. We'd rather have them be in person at Riverside. The one that is really unique and new to us and one that had a lot of buzz about is ASL, so American Sign Language. So we're offering ASL as a language option, as well as Comp 1, Comp 2, English Composition 1, English Composition 2, Math, Speech, College Speech, and Economics are some of the courses that we're offering. And continuing to build that robust program out and looking for other opportunities for our students to earn advanced level courses at our high school. We also had mentioned the Portrait of a Beaver. That is a hub and that spoke as well, the Riverside Beaver. We've introduced those to all our faculty and looked at the competencies, and we're going to work those competencies throughout the curricula, pre-K through 12. And the last is we have collected baseline climate and engagement data, and we're going to do that at the end of the year from our staff, and then we're going to continue to move that out past that in terms of all stakeholders, so including parents, hopefully even community members as well, because we want to get the feedback from all of them. So that's year 1. That's what we're doing now. We're setting the foundation, so with the baseline as to where we are. Moving forward in year 2 in this plan, we're going to expand the training on the Riverside Way document based on the information that we gather in those instructional rounds. What you're going to hear a lot in this plan is we use the data we gather to provide our teachers and our staff and everyone else what they need to move forward. So we're using that based on that to develop our personalized learning. We're going to form instructional rounds in every building and try to get those rounds across buildings. So right now our instructional rounds occur only in the buildings that the teachers are in, but we're going to take some time and have our teachers do rounds in other buildings to look for the Riverside Way documents. Not only does that strengthen the practice that happens in that building, it strengthens the work that those teachers are doing by learning new things and seeing new things and seeing how other teachers teach. One of the things in education that's not as common as perhaps I would even say it should be is watching others do the craft. Teachers typically will isolate in their own room, and getting out and to watch others actually teach the same lesson and maybe teach it a nuance. They learn so much from it, so getting into the classrooms to see that is a great thing. We're also rolling out 2 additional structured curriculums, our Benchmark Advanced, so that's our ELA curriculum for grades 3 through 6, based on the science of reading, and then CPM College Prep Math, which was just approved at the last board meeting. That's our math programs for grades 6 through 8 and Honors Algebra 1. That is a very rigorous math program that combines that. We are working on strengthening those tiers 1 and then working on tier 2, making sure that all of our learners have those tier 2 supports. So when they don't meet that 80% threshold, what do those interventions look like not only in the classroom but maybe in small groups if needed? And then we're also working on the rollout of the senior capstone project that came out of business advisory, rolling that out, making sure that works there, and integrating these Portrait of a Beaver traits specifically into classrooms and designing look-fors at each of those levels to make sure those are there. So that's year 2. That's a lot of PD for next year. We're planning that right now. And then year 3 is basically sustain and refine this program. So what we're going to do with that, we're going to deliver the advanced professional learning based on what our staff needs. So based on, again, the data we get from instructional rounds, the data we get from the assessments that we give that provide those that are there, the data we get just from our surveys that come out. We're going to do make sure that the Riverside Way is embedded in every classroom and that it is consistent like we say it is. We're going to make sure that CPM, that College Prep Math, goes up to Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, those courses. So CPM gets expanded all the way up through our high school core curriculum. And then we're going to deploy, we're going to fully implement Lakeland at RHS with our in-house faculty. So one of the things we're starting with this year is Lakeland faculty are going to come to Riverside. We're going to try to get those as many as we can by RHS and even expanded and offer other options, perhaps Lake Erie courses at a CCP level and some of the fine arts and that sort of thing. We're looking to really provide our students with different opportunities to find their passion and to really expand it more on campus and not have to leave to go to another place or go online. We want to make sure that they're in person. And then again, we're going to continue to use and refine the MTSS data to personalize the learning that we deliver. So we're going to work on those tier 3 strategies, as well as making sure that our learning and our lessons are personalized. And we're going to evaluate the postgraduate outcomes for our college and career readiness students, making sure that what we say that's going to happen from this is actually happening. The goal of this whole program and the outcome, so I always want to start with the end in mind, is really increased student achievement. And for us, increased student achievement is not just those achievements met on state test scores. Those are going to rise with this. We know that's going to happen. Our diagnostic assessment scores are going to continue to grow. We're going to see growth. We want to see real-time growth. The problem with state test scores is they happen once a year. We see the results the next month, and then it's kind of looking at an autopsy report. So we're going to try to use real-time data to make sure we improve that. Also surveys. Also looking at what our students are doing after the fact. So post-graduation and post-success surveys of our students to make sure that they are truly prepared for college and career. And our progress is going to be driven by strong instructional practices and data-informed teams. And what I would like to do, and we're working on developing what this looks like now, is when you click on increased student achievement in the website, it takes you to the state report card. That's one measure. But we also want to develop a dashboard in which you can see all of these measures. So public-facing, where we say, here's where we are. So when we talk about multi-tiered system of supports, it's a pyramid, and you have your tier 1, your tier 2, and tier 3. Well, what do those look like? If we're doing what we're doing, we're going to see less from 1 year, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. We're going to share that information and be public-facing with it. We're going to share some not identified data, but some just general averages. We're going to share growth data. We're going to share different data points along the way that say, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're growing. We're going to identify what those key indicators are and make sure we're transparent with it. And we're going to set high goals, and we're going to try to reach those goals. Now, we know we're going to have some challenges. Anytime you put a new curriculum, you sometimes get a dip that first year as teachers learn that curriculum. They've learned it. They've learned a new way of teaching, a new way of presenting material. So we may see that dip in that first year. But overall, by the time we've got this curriculum fully implemented, what we think that's going to happen, and what we know by looking at all of the research and the other schools that have done it, is that we're going to see a growth in our student achievement across the board in all those areas, and our students are going to be even more prepared for college and career. So that's what's coming over the next couple special reports. Will be different levels of these, 2 or 3 of these at a time, with some of the experts who are there. So I'm the introduction guy, and then we're going to turn over to the real people who are experts about these specific areas and are doing the work from our district leadership team. Not only our central office, Dr. Malacher and Mrs. Lanning, but then also some of actually we have a district leadership team with both principals and teachers who are heading these subcommittees that are driving a lot of these changes, and I'd rather them speak about it than I do. So at this point, I'll open it for any questions about just kind of the introduction to the plan.
I was just going to say that, because you have data on a student, when they go to the next grade level or teacher, they can, they have a lot of information about that child, and then they, can hit the ground running on where do I begin. It's not like you're just getting this child and you have to figure it out.
We talked about that today.
Yeah.
One of the programs we're using for monitoring our multi-tiered system of supports is called Branching Minds. And so it's a common system where we have students in there, and when you set the new classrooms and the new classes in place, all that data follows the students.
Mm-hmm.
So it tells them what tiers they're on and all of that. And we'll use the spring map to set where they need to be for the next year based on the next year's standards that we can set up and have those interventions ready to go. And I think that is a promising practice that we're going to continue on moving forward. And then the fall map we'll either confirm that or we'll identify and move some students off as well as needed.
Is all this information housed in Infinite Campus?
So
Or is
Infinite
it
Campus
separate?
is the point of truth for some of it, but it leads to other programs that we need. So Infinite Campus will write to Infinite Campus syncs with Branching Minds overnight, and Branching Minds uses the data from Infinite Campus, but
So-
then puts other information in it.
What happens if we have to move from Infinite Campus? Because that's a distinct possibility right now.
So we pray that we don't, and I
Right,
do have an
I
update that they're making progress with it. We would have, that data would still transfer with it. It's a large data conversion. We would more likely, my recommendation would be more likely to change our A site than to move from Infinite Campus, because to do it right, to move from an SIS to a different SAS is over 1.5 years to really make sure that all the data is checked and corrected and all that.
I just know that that's a concern.
It
we
is,
have
it is a
right now,
huge
so-
concern on this end. It has slowed us up from a couple of things, not necessarily from this project, from implementing some other things moving forward because of the fact that if we have to change, it does, if we have to shift where our A site is, it shifts some of the URLs and all of that. And that's a big concern. I believe NeoNet gave us an update today. They're headed in the right direction. Looks like it's a positive outcome, but didn't really make me happy when I received that.
Okay, is that it for special report?
I have one more. So I'm the star of the show tonight, unfortunately. Sorry about that. The other one is, there's been, I was asked to bring some talk about what are we going to do next year with the construction going on in our elementary classrooms, and looking at some ideas and relocating these classrooms because of construction construction projects that are going on and how they impact. So coming from that, really looking at why we did this and what are our factors driving the decisions that we made or the decisions that we're proposing. The first and foremost is the Riverview expansion, which was voted on and is starting hopefully in June. The Riverview expansion provides additional classrooms for all students and allows the originally designed special education classrooms at Riverview to return to their intended building. The Buckeye construction project is another factor into this. Although we don't have a start date for the Buckeye Elementary School project, we do know that it will be at some point during the school next year, and it does require the modular units to be either taken offline or moved. And so those classrooms that are housed there, we have to account for that as well. And then the timelines for the project. So I do have an update from RFC Construction as well as TDA on the timelines. We should have a final, they are getting the final proposals from contractors in today and over the weekend. Roger and Ryan are gonna go through them next week to kind of look at what those are, what those proposals look like and what those bids are. And the week of the 5th, is looking to set a meeting up for Buildings and Grounds to discuss if Buildings and Ground wants to do it, or if we want to just keep it smaller, to set up the proposed GMPs at this point for those projects. So that's the week of May 5th.
Yeah, so in going over those contracts, we're already in motion basically with contracts. We would have to approve the amounts.
We do have to approve it, but it's the specific bidders and what the scope
Right.
looks and all of that.
And the specific bidder, in this case, is CCI Cleveland Construction.
There's subcontractors from that.
And so, right, so I mean, they're hiring the subs though.
They are, but I believe in this project, we can rule some out.
Right, we have the
We
ability,
do,
if we want to partition.
yes.
So, just so everyone knows, there was a request from anyone that might know construction companies or people who are in business that the school either would like to do, the district would like to do business with, or not like to do business with. So whatever information was gathered there, but then this will be the final review of that process.
Yep, and then the final,
Just wanted to make it clear for people
Sorry
what's
about
going
that.
on.
Yeah.
I mean, construction can
Yeah.
be confusing.
and the final numbers, and then very, very strong concrete timelines and that sort
Right.
as well. So that is another factor. So currently, the timelines that we're working with, we're assuming a project completion at Riverview by January of 2026, and the Buckeye work starting in October. That's the latest data we've heard from both Roger and Ryan. In factoring these timelines, some of the classroom space will see limited availability during the school year. So we took that into place. The guiding principles that we made our decisions by, number one, we want it to be the least disruptive transition. So we want to minimize the disruption to students' routines and services, especially during the middle of a school year as we move through. We want to make sure that we have a continuity of services. When we talk about our special needs classrooms. We want to make sure that all those required services are provided throughout the move. We want to make sure we're transparent and we get it out to families early and often. So we want to engage those families as early as possible with clear information. So after today's meeting, we even want to get something out to families saying this is what we've discussed at the meeting and be clear with that. When we talk about accessibility, we want to make sure that our physical accessibility and appropriate environments are there for all of those needs that are there. We're always making assumptions in any type of forecasting work that we do. The assumptions I made for this is I made the assumption number one that enrollment in Buckeye, Melridge, and Riverview remain relatively consistent for the 25-26 school year. We see the same rough amount of sections in each grade level that we have this year. We don't see a surge in any one grade. And other assumptions that student needs for the specific self-contained unit classrooms will remain consistent, and the number of those classrooms remain consistent. We don't believe that to be an issue, but if we were to have a large number of movements who require those services, we would have to add an additional classroom, which would change some of the needs that are here. We also make the assumption that the Riverview expansion final construction timeline has that occupancy date that falls within 25-26 school year. If something were to happen where the GMP came back similar to, and I'm not projecting this, nor do I foresee it, but I just wanted to put it down. If that GMP came back incredibly, I guess twice the cost or incredibly high, we would have to do a whole lot of changes to it. That would, of course, delay this. And if the Riverview project weren't to be done by the 25-26 school year, or in that time, we would definitely want to take a look at what we're doing to make sure that it's the best for students. And that the last assumption is the modular units at Buckeye will be inaccessible and taken offline at some point during the 25-26 school year. So just the overall brief view of what the plan is and some of the reasons why behind it. The first part of it is to move the primary autism and MD unit that's currently at Buckeye to Riverview first floor to begin the school year, and also to move the primary special ed classroom at Riverview at Melridge to Riverview as well to start the school year. The reason behind this is these are students who have the most, the highest challenges in terms of a transition. So we want to make sure that they have the same year throughout and we can transition them and even do some of that transition work now in May and then in June to kind of have them and familiarize them with the school and the classrooms that they will be in. The other thing at Buckeye would be to move the two preschool classrooms at Buckeye to Melridge. We want to take a look at getting all 4 classrooms at Melridge for that school year to make sure that pre-K is in one location. That does free up some classrooms at Buckeye to move some of those classrooms and modular units in. Another change to Buckeye is due to current enrollment right now. Those Buckeye sections in second grade, which are 3, can consolidate to 2 sections of third grade to be consistent with our class sizes throughout third grade across the district. The one thing that we don't have a final on is what we're going to do with the specials, and that really depends on the number of kindergarten students who are enrolling and how many sections we are going to need for kindergarten. If we need 3 sections for kindergarten, then we will be looking at doing something. If we have 2 sections, then they'll have that room as a designated kindergarten space. 3, they will be probably throughout in multiple spaces throughout the building. At Melridge, Melridge again is moving their special ed classroom. Also, they are going to receive the 2 preschool classrooms from Buckeye. So for the 25-26 school year, we are recommending preschool, all 4 sections of preschool be housed at Melridge for that time. Riverview is going to receive the 2 special education classrooms, and those are going to be placed in the rooms that were designed for them when the building was open. They're going to temporarily relocate the sections that have 5 sections to spaces that are available. If we have the current music room available, if we do not need 5 sections in kindergarten based on the numbers, we'll put a classroom in there. The first grade classroom will go in that kindergarten space. The other ones, we're going to put up temporary dividers in the pods and utilize those pods temporarily for the 5th classroom as well. And then art and music will share, it's both the art room and the technology room that they share upstairs as they currently do now. So those are our proposals. Are there any questions?
Yeah, on the use of the pods, and I did get to view those, and I know a lot is contingent on kindergarten enrollment, but you have 1st grade, 4th grade, but you haven't mentioned the current first grade going to second that's been quite large.
We are monitoring that one right now. It was
Okay.
down for a little while. I think it's going back up. We're looking at our enrollments. It will most likely have to be 5 sections. If
Yeah.
it can be 4, our recommendation will be 4. But we are watching, that is one we are watching extremely closely.
Okay, because I just don't want to lose
Yeah.
sight of that one. And then, you know, at Riverview, and I wasn't part of the design team, but, you know, on that first floor, and, you know, I know some people have not actually seen, you know, how this all comes together, first floor, second floor, but on the first floor addition, you know, there's 4 classrooms that have a bathroom in them, with the idea that if there's a 5th section of kindergarten, that there would be space for that. There was a 5th section of first grade, that's possible, because then that would allow 2nd and 4th to go upstairs. But it also has an office for a preschool administrator and a secretary, and the idea was to move at least next year, depending on a finish date, the 2 of the pre-K classes, depending on how you organize them. I was looking at, you know, the notes you sent, and it had something to do with, you know, how they're organized, whether they're Parkside and,
It's, so in
Melridge.
talking with our preschool staff,
mhm.
their preference would be to finish the year at Melridge and then start the 26-27 school year at Riverview with the preschool there. But that said, if the board chooses to have 2 sections at Riverview, we would need to make sure that it's open and get the permitting once we have occupancy, and that would depend, it is really date driven based on occupancy permit for the preschool program there. We could start to fill out that as well. We just need to know kind of what that looks like. I believe in the 25-26 school year for the half of the year that all of those classrooms there will be some classrooms that are open for that year because of just the half year that's available, but we will fill in as much as we can.
Well, we just, nobody has a crystal ball to know how this is going to go.
Absolutely.
If you finish at the end of November,
Mhm.
then,
Yep.
you know, it makes all the sense in the world. I understand in talking to Ryan that there will be, things would be finished enough to use that entrance there, and I'm already, Dennis and I are, you know, he had talked to Ryan, but then I've been personally going around and looking at preschool playgrounds so that we can have an idea of what that looks like, and that it would be very functional so that I can present that and see what the Riverview staff would like, or the pre-K, because it would be used by pre-K, but it could also be used by kindergarten and not create so much congestion on the main playground. And then there was also a lot of the pods when I went over to Riverview and toured it, not once but twice. They're very, especially at the primary level, very congested as far as intervention places. You know, they have maybe 2 or 3 people using the space. And, you know, we just want to see if there's other areas, like, for example, the 2nd floor of Riverview. We have 2 rooms there that were, from my understanding, were designed for special education rooms. It had small group instructional rooms off of it and a larger changing table. And that was specifically designed for that. I know that the transition, changing a building, changing busing, all that would be a lot. And I'm totally in favor of them being at Riverview to start the year. But the question is whether, you know, they could utilize that space, because we have other people that could use some space for intervention for some of the other Riverview students, if they're not using that space. I mean, and Ryan did indicate that, because I know at Melridge, they had to construct some drywall area to have some space when a child needs that space in the ED room, and it is possible to put a door on the one side here into that small tutoring.
Oh, on the
room.
new, in the new
In
section?
the new upstairs addition
Yes.
that was designed for special.
Mhm.
And, but yet it still leaves another intervention room that could be utilized, you know, general.
So this would be, I thought you were talking about the transition to Riverview from the beginning of the school year. You talking about once the building is open and the new wing is open and occupied?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if they're already in the building, you're just moving to,
They would move, that is an opportunity. I really focused on the beginning of the school year,
Yeah,
what the plan was
right.
to move there.
and I
think-
guess I'm saying
yeah.
I'm totally in favor of that, they're in the building.
Right.
But then once
Once
their
they're there,
space is available, looking at the space they're going to occupy in the beginning of the year during construction versus the space they could go to,
Sure.
night and day.
I would agree with that. I
Yeah.
think that's part of, once we get the GMP to see where it is, if we have to do some value engineering, we take a look at what that looks like at that point. And I do almost expect to have to do something with that,
Okay.
to get those numbers. So I think those are all great considerations. This was really for the start.
Right, for the
was just
start.
For the start of the beginning of the year.
Right. And then, just as far as Buckeye, I had, on the last page, just a little bit, because this was something we talked at the Buckeye committee meeting, but just kind of seeing where those classes that, are moving from the modulars, where they would fit into the building. And, you know, the modulars, you know, if we have an October start, once the kids are back in school, I would really want to see those modulars removed before the kids start school. I'm assuming it's gonna be removed over the summer.
There has not been any board decision that's been talked about. There,
Wow.
Mr. Alessi had a price on it.
Right, so there's a price to dismantle all three and discard, right, Rich? And so, there was another guy that I know that had looked at it, and so then part of the question was, are we going to be able to sell the one, or are we gonna have to cut it up and discard it? So it's a little bit in discussion, but that should be wrapped up, I would think, wouldn't you think, Rich, in the next 30 days?
Sure.
So I have a question on that.
I mean, because we have something in hand if we needed to act on it.
If we needed to get another proposal or two, we can do that. If the board is good with one, if we agree to sign off on that, we can get it rolling.
Yeah, I happen to know a guy that, I mean, that's what he does every day, demolishes stuff. So he is gonna be throwing a number out there, and we'll see how it compares. But we might have to get an adjusted number if we can sell the third one, because they wouldn't be cutting that up and throwing it away.
Correct.
The
So-
newest one, you're saying.
The newest one, right?
Can I ask a question on that? So what happens, when do we anticipate getting a price for Buckeye?
No, go ahead.
We have, so in buildings and grounds, there were some preliminary, numbers.
I mean, when do we expect to get a GMP so that we can,
I don't have a timeline.
well, right,
Yeah.
so my suggestion would be, let's take that into consideration, that if that GMP comes in excessive and we end up not being able to do the Buckeye project or whatever, we won't have any place to put kids. And taking them down in the summer before we have a GMP could be problematic. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that'd be a problem, because it's really gonna come down to how much we borrow. And so even if the number goes up, we're gonna be borrowing anyway, so. I don't think that would be an issue.
And the Buckeye Committee has worked to accommodate everybody. In fact, we were able to not allow the congestion of interventions for people in one room. We're able to use some of the space that's being vacated by the preschool on each side of the stage, but also the they call it the fishbowl, but it's the room that's right there at the entrance, because that room could be utilized by speech or OT or shared. And so we feel that we have enough space to accommodate everybody, and there's no need for the
I
trailers.
To answer the GMP question, though, I could reach out to Roger to see if he's got a targeted date in mind. He's been pretty,
Yeah, and I talked to Ryan yesterday, and he said they're really clipping along with Buckeye, and that's one of the reasons. He had some questions, why we changed our meeting on Tuesday instead of at 8 when he couldn't make it to 2 o'clock. So
And
it's
there's
clipping along.
From my perspective, there's just a lot of unknowns at this time. Not knowing how much we're going to borrow, not knowing what that PI fund's gonna look like, not knowing what might happen with the cash set-asides that we might be limited with in our general fund. I don't wanna put the cart before the horse. I
I
just want
will-
us to take that into consideration and
I
have some
think, I
plans.
think we really thought about all those items, so
I
I
don't know,
can
we
get a-
haven't
Yeah.
talked about it at the table, so I wanna make sure.
I can get
we're
a
considering
estimate
that.
from CCI, or I'll ask Roger to get the estimate from
So,
CCI for the new part.
So, Ryan has to have a certain amount of work done,
Mhm.
and then, I mean, when you're looking at the number of classrooms in a gymnasium, the number is gonna be, you
Sure.
could already state an approximate number.
Yeah,
And so with a little bit more work by Ryan, Roger should be able to give us a range.
I'll follow
Yeah.
up with that.
Yeah.
I'll follow up with some range and maybe some
Yeah,
suggested timelines.
And we're in agreement on the general design. We made some modifications just to allow for 2 more tutoring rooms by pushing the bathrooms in where the kindergarten rooms are. And it also allowed the art and music room to have a bathroom. And it really didn't increase. I think it allowed for 4 to 6 more feet to push the gym. But that was it. But it will have its own entrance, so it can be utilized at night or after school by community groups. And yet we can still lock off the rest of the building. And so that was a real positive. And it leaves the playground pretty intact, but obviously from construction, there's gonna be some need to fix some things, like the basketball court wasn't in great shape anyway. Ball fields should be okay, but we'll get onto that. So is there anything we need to do about the modulars at this point?
That would be an action, that would be an agenda item, and it sounds like we're gonna discuss it at the buildings and grounds and come back
I think at the next buildings and grounds, we should have enough information
with some
Okay.
information.
to make a call. And I know that Mr. Plako's not here, he was gonna put that one up
Yes.
for auction,
Yes.
so.
I will-
Thank you for putting that together, because there were a lot of questions
Sure. we will-
across different committees.
If we're gonna put something up for auction, we have to vote on that, correct? That has to be an agenda item,
I think,
disposal of property.
I think it's a policy that if the school is going to sell something, I think it was a policy. It's a gray area, as Gary Platko was saying, that it could be sold or it could be put up for auction. And he had already looked at a couple options, and what he had said was that he was gonna put it up for auction. So if that needs a board vote, maybe we should look into that. And we could certainly do a board vote to auction that.
I can look into
Yeah,
that.
if you could look
McIntyre,
into
do
it,
Absolutely.
and just let us know.
Yep.
Mr. McIntyre, don't we have to have, like, isn't disposal of property a board vote item?
So if you're auctioning off your real property, which is legally required, that does require board action. I'm just looking at your policy right now. Is this, would we consider this surplus property that's being subject to the auction? It's not real property.
Well, I mean, but any
No.
fixed asset that we decide to dispose of, isn't there policy that says we have to,
Modular
or
street,
legislation or something that says that we have to vote on that?
So, under board policy 7300, personal property, the value of which does not exceed $10,000 shall be disposed of by the superintendent in such manner as serves the best interests of the district.
The 2 obviously are under $10,000 that will demo. The other one, that's a guess
That's
on
the
what we'll
question.
get.
Yeah,
It's really not, like, I'm not asking whether or not the value of that is less than $10,000, but what we have it, what we purchased it for, and so its fixed asset value is greater than that. I'm not sure that, like, I would I would like to follow up on that.
Yeah, so,
I'd be
if,
happy to look into it, I just
Right.
need to get the facts and then I can.
right, and if it's underneath $10,000, the superintendent can dispose of it without board action.
That's correct.
And are we looking at the value of each one or as a whole?
The two that are older are going to be disposed of,
Mhm.
so there's no value.
They've depreciated over their time period. to
16
where
I think they
16
depreciated
years.
two
yeah.
or three times.
Yeah.
They've been there a long time. So the newest one is the only one that has any value, if you will. Unfortunately, it's the market. And what's the market going to bear? We don't know. But certainly, it might be prudent for the board just to take action to give approval. And if it's above that number, the approval's been given. If it's below the number, then you don't need approval of the disposal,
Yeah.
the sale.
The section of 7,300 that relates to the disposal of personal or real property over 10,000 it says it shall be sold at public auction to the highest bidder. You may offer it as a group of items or separately. It gives all the procedures for doing that. I could see why Gary said it was a gray area because the board policy doesn't seem to say one way or the other. I think in
Doesn't say
the
it needs
interest,
Board action.
it does not, but I think in,
It wouldn't
basically,
do any harm to have board action.
agreed.
I think it's okay to revise code, so I just want to clarify.
Yeah, I'll be happy to look
Thank
into
you.
it further soon, give you my
Yeah,
recommendation.
we can put it on a future agenda and do that. Okay,
Okay, concludes my report.
thank you very much for your reports. Okay. All right, discussion of old business, any old business?
Yeah, I have old business. Mr. McIntyre, is it possible for a board communication to go out just with the people who are in favor of sending that? Because I continue to have concerns about the information that is in it as not being true. For instance, finding out we're demolishing trailers when we've never spoke about it, and then also it's not transparent. So I just want to ask if possible, just the board members that want to put their name on it can, and those that don't, do not have to.
So what does it, how is it formatted right now, if I
Just
could
says
ask?
Riverside Local School Board.
I see. So, I mean, there's no specific answer or statute that I could flip to that'll give you a direct answer. I would say generally that the board members have the right to exclude their name from a publication. Although, if a majority of the board wants to put the Riverside School District's name, Board of Education, on something, I think they have the right to do that.
Well, I would like my name excluded from here on out. If I continue to have concerns about the information that's being sent out to the community as not being factual or transparent. So I would ask that we remove my name from the board's communication, please.
And I have a question about that because the board voted to send that out. And once the board votes and they're the majority, the board has spoken. And so
Put it up
where
with your
does
name
that
on it.
fall in?
So that would allow you.
It's not your name, it's the Board of Education. Sorry, Dan.
So I would say that would allow you to put the Riverside Local School District Board of Education's name on that
And that's
communication.
what's been done.
Yeah, but if a board member says, I disclaim this, or I don't want, I think a board member has the ability to say, I don't want any part of that communication.
Should that be on the same communication or separate communication?
However you guys decide to do it. there's
And
no-
it could not be on there, it could just be the Board of Education.
I believe the names were taken off
Yeah, the names
after
were
the
taken off.
first month or so.
How do we do that? Just send an email to the superintendent? We don't want to be included.
I mean, your names aren't on it right now,
But it
so
says the board, which insinuates us.
it does. I mean, I don't know of, we'd have to brainstorm this. I don't really know of a specific avenue that you could say, as a district publication notice, hey, 3 board members are behind this, it has the Riverside School District's name on it. but 2 board members aren't. We would have to figure something out on that.
Right.
We'd be like the Supreme Court and send out a rebuttal.
Sort of
You know,
a
like-
dissenting opinion
Right,
kind of a
dissenting.
thing. I mean,
I've said it
offici-
from the beginning, I'm not a fan, so.
Understood. So those communications would have to occur personally and would not be the communications of the district and couldn't use district resources for that.
But once the board has voted, they have spoken, I thought, and that you can't have somebody acting.
Well, that would,
But the
that would be
problem-
fine,
Aside
but
from the
if it was
board.
true, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
things in there that are not factual and.
When- Yeah,
they're
when
just
I, as a
not.
board member, learn about something by the board communication, that's not right. I should be learning about it at this table. So when something comes out and we learn about it in a communication, something's not right. Also, they're not transparent. We're talking about all the wonderful things that are going on, but there's no discussion about the fact that we may not have the money to pay for all of them, or that we're gonna really hurt our PI fund for 10 years plus. So it's not transparent and it's not factual, so I'm just asking nicely, put the 3 names on it that wanna be on it, and remove R2 from it. That's it.
I guess we can all think about that.
Well, our attorney's already given us the advice, so thank you for the input.
What advice, Mr. McIntyre, can you please tell me what advice you've given?
So my advice is that if a majority of the board agrees to send out a communication, then it can list the Riverside Local School District Board of Education as the official author or distributor of a communication. If an individual board member wants to disclaim their role or their consent or their agreement with the content of that communication, I believe they have, as an elected official, the right to have that opinion and to sort of disclaim their participation in this. However, I don't know of a venue or a way to do that because your names aren't listed on it individually right now.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
As a board member, should we be learning about something via board communication that's going out to the entire district?
I mean, generally speaking, no.
Thank you.
Right.
So would it be appropriate or allowable then for a board member to respond all, or send out a communication that says, I dissent, I disagree?
When you say respond all, you mean to the
Well, I don't know,
district
like to use my
solicitor?
district email to say, I don't agree.
Oh, I see. So, I do not think that that's an appropriate use of the
Serious
district's
ethics problem.
resources.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of serious ethics problems right now.
Well, I mean, I'm just asking.
yeah.
So I think one of those already went out, and that was a serious ethics problem.
I would never recommend that. I don't think that's the right course of action.
So basically, basically what I'm hearing is we just have to suck it up and listen to wrong information and
No, I think
And,
you all
and
have,
have my name attached to it and in disguised format, the Board of Education, I am on the Board of Education. So it's wrong, and I just have to live with it.
yeah. I guess my advice is not that. It's just that you are a
My advice
bo-
would be that the information doesn't go out wrong in the first place. But
Well-
we don't get an opportunity to see it, so it goes out and it's not accurate, and time after time, I have issue with it, I know I'm not the only one who has issue with that, so.
Okay, anything else for old business? I have an update for the stand of trees along the Riverview property that we had quotes to remove. That work's mostly done. There's a little bit of cleanup that still needs to be done. There was a person that lives in the Riverside Local School District that was able to do the work and save the district $14,000, which was a savings of 60%. And we'll look forward to building more of a team of people that either live in the district or in the nearby community or communities that would be willing to work with the district to save the district money so that we can make our dollars go farther and be more efficient and effective with every dollar we spend. So I think that's a success, and it's to be well noted, and we appreciate that person who lives in the district and working with us. So a little bit of old business. Any new business? Okay, Board of Education Committee and Liaison Reports, Buildings and Grounds, and Superintendent's Business Advisory Liaison. So with the capstone project that our superintendent previously mentioned, that is a new campaign, a new project, and that is something that we're looking for companies, if I understand correctly, that'll work with the students for 250 hours.
250 hours throughout the year, and we have a number, I think we do have a number of businesses who are willing, is that?
No, we haven't gotten to
Oh, we
that
haven't
page
gotten-
yet.
okay. We're still-
I just sent you an email about meeting before business advisory next week.
Okay.
So we have some specific businesses based on what the kids are interested in, because it's such a small group. for
Yeah,
each
do we have,
day.
what, 10? Is it limited to 10?
Well, I was able to push it to 13.
Okay, 13.
13
So, I mean,
wanted to do, yeah, so we only have 13.
and we were
students.
talking maybe 15, so.
Yes, so we got to 13 of the kids who came down, there were 22. 13 actually followed through, filled out the application, so I want to have a quick discussion before business
Okay.
advisory.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So anyway, that is something where students can have experience while they're still in school to see if there's a career they might like, or they might find out they don't like it, which is maybe equally as good. So, yeah, we're moving forward on that. And then there was the senior hiring fair on Friday, April 11th. How did that go?
Phenomenal. We had a number of local businesses that were there, so the last minute push actually did help out, and it keeps growing and growing. And it was actually seniors and juniors this year participated, and nothing but positive feedback from the employers who were there about our students and how they prepared, how seriously they took it.
Were people hired on the
I
spot?
don't know if they were hired on the spot.
I know they filled out
I
applications, and if I could interject just for a minute about our particular hiring fair, we do it a little bit different than other schools, and we don't open it up to the whole building. So kids, we invite specific kids who don't have a plan for after high school to try to get them connected with jobs, so with actual jobs and good career paths after high school. So the kids who come down and go around, although we don't get, there's not hundreds of kids, the kids who are there are actually looking to interact with those employers and secure a position. So it's a little bit different. It grew this year. I'm sorry, Chris, to jump in, but
You're just stealing my thunder later, that's all.
I
good.
know. Oh, are you gonna?
This
okay.
one's later.
And then the superintendent's gonna talk about the rest of it in a couple minutes.
So,
But it is different, because sometimes I look at what Mentor does, or some of the bigger schools, and they have all these kids come down and wander through, but they're sometimes just kids who don't want to go to second block or whatever, you know what I mean? So there's not that interaction between the employers and the students, and so I think Mallory was there, and it was just a really positive experience.
and one of the goals there was maybe to create some internships.
Mhm.
So if you're going to talk about that, I'll stop there.
Sorry.
So,
I have pictures.
okay, better, even better. So anyway, yeah, some good things going on there. So, buildings and grounds, we're looking at a box truck that Mr. Arlesic said was partially falling apart, and didn't know if he had enough duct tape to get another couple of years out of it. And so we'll be looking into the possibility of making a purchase, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm just gonna read what it is, Rich, and maybe you can explain a little bit more. We have a heavy-duty utility machine, and there's a pricing of $35,000. And then we have a Kubota, a utility vehicle, priced $21,800. And that's in discussion right now about, we have one of the first machine and we need another one. And in buildings and grounds, we talked about that. We certainly want our guys to have everything they need. We can't afford a piece of equipment to go down where they can't do any work at all. So we're inclined to go ahead and get that done, and we put it on for the next buildings and grounds meeting. And then we have Riverside High School gym bleachers. There was 3 different quotes, and for $18,250, we're going to be buying new bleachers. We had normal maintenance, we'll just put it that way, for the grease traps and the sewer lines. That'll be done. And then we'll be changing our service for the mechanical service to CLAD, C-L-A-A-D Mechanical. And Mr. Arlesic met with Tom Steiger, the owner, and went over what our needs are and got some pricing. So it looks like we'll be changing service companies there. And then also Ambitious Landscaping, we talked about the work they do, and everyone was well pleased with the work they do. So $14,400 for landscaping, mulch, and a general cleanup, so that was approved. And then we have some pavement things to be done, asphalt and patching and striping and coating. And I think that Mr. Keeney said we need a little more time to look into that.
Right.
And we want to refine the numbers as best we can, but of course we want to get all the work done that we need to have done. Just taking care of the things that we have. And then also there is a contract for snow removal that we're approving, a 3-year contract, because they've done a great job. Well, this past year, Mr. Arlesic, right, we would have, if we didn't have a good company, we would have been in some trouble, right?
We probably would have missed more days than we did.
Yeah, so, you know, that was approved for 3 years. And everyone here that owns a house that has to have snow removed and hires a company knows that if you do a contract, sometimes it doesn't snow much, but sometimes it snows a lot, and you never know what's going to happen. But we need to have them in place, especially for years like this past winter. So we're looking at some Melridge items that need to be done, and we're in discussion about that, and looking forward to getting some of those things done over at Melridge. And then at Lamouth, there's new carpet in the band room for just under $8,000, and we'll be looking to get that executed also. And then over at Melridge, there's the opportunity to possibly put a door between a couple classrooms, and the cost on that, and we're looking at that possibility. So anyway, that's buildings and grounds. Curriculum and programming and the Buckeye Elementary Ad Hoc Committee.
Okay, I already spoke a little bit about Buckeye. We do have a meeting this coming Tuesday, and Ryan Schmidt from Then Design will be attending at 2 o'clock. And you know, we have a plan on how we can accommodate Buckeye students within the building. And as far as the strategic plan committee, I met with Dr. Rutino and Dr. Malakar, and you presented that tonight, so I'm not going to go over it again, but it's well done. All right, and then as far as curriculum and programs committee, we met on April 15th at 7:30 with the new college preparatory math program. It's CPM. You'll see those initials, but I wanted to say what it stood for. It's for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers that will be participating in trainings so that they can use this new program with students in the fall. And those trainings will be on April 29th, 30th, and May 1st, and then August 19th, right before school starts. And because our district is serving as a host site, there will be no cost for our staff to be trained, which is huge. And then teachers will have access to the materials over the summer, which is really good. Also on June 3rd through the 5th, the honors teachers in grades 6 through 8 will attend a 3-day training in Columbus. And this integrated program includes Algebra 1 in 8th grade, is that correct? Well, it kind of spans, right?
6 through 8.
6 through 8. It's compacted, yeah. So, and ends in 8th, and then you spoke about it in this document. All right, and then report card information on graduates or the state report card. They have some post-secondary data. I had a question by a community member Are graduates getting jobs? You know, are they working? You know, all those kinds of things. And so there is information on the state report card site, on the state site under post-secondary data. And there's a tab labeled post-secondary pathways. So if you want to view some of those credentials of our graduates, you could do that. This information includes students who attend Auburn Career Center. And as this is self-reported data, some of the information on graduates might not be there. It's a voluntary thing. And then the social studies courses study has been released, and it was on the board agenda, and you can click the link and see it by grade levels. I was pleased to view, you know, the different grade levels, but also really enjoyed going through the current events and the financial literacy programs. Things that, well, we had current events, but it's just so much more involved now, and I love the financial literacy program to help our students go forward. And
Can I mention, once approved, it will be on the district curriculum website.
Yeah.
So we will post it.
Correct.
So it is on the agenda.
And what was missing, in case you saw it, was the kindergarten, first and second grade social studies courses study, because they're still working on it, because we just adopted the Wit and Wisdom reading program, and so you know, social studies is kind of blended in that reading program. So that will be coming. Okay. Do you have a timeline on that?
No, probably not till the beginning of next year.
Yeah.
They'll start working
Right.
on it. So hopefully by the fall of next year, we'll have that grade level updated. But we'll also probably have to update 3, 4, 5 because of the new benchmark program also. There's so many standards
Yes.
embedded in there. So there will be some revision in that. Also, you will get the science courses of study will be coming out in a Friday packet again for the
Okay.
board to review. And that will be on the May.
The May one.
Yes, the May
Okay.
agenda
Yeah, I didn't
for
want to
approval.
speak about it yet because it isn't here yet. Okay, and then we already spoke about the job fair, and but we had talked about that. It was nice that companies are coming out for our students, and that Dr. Rattino already talked about the Pathway to Excellence, the 3-year formal curriculum plan, and then the updates on staffing and program locations during construction. So that was pretty much it, unless I left something out. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And we do meet again. I didn't put the next date to remember. I have it, but
I don't have it
we're
off the
meeting
top of my
again
head.
in May. It might be on the board agenda.
It might be on the website.
Yeah, all right.
I
That's
think
it.
it was June, Mrs. Brewster. Remember, we skipped May and we were gonna.
We're
wait till we
skipping
had
May
data
and went to
to
June.
look at,
That's
yes.
true.
Yeah, you
Okay.
wanted to review data.
So,
so
I
we-
think that's why we don't have it. right away,
Exactly.
'cause
Yep.
we'll
Okay.
update it in May.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, so policy and alumni.
So there's policies on the agenda for approval tonight. At the second reading, most of them are due to cleanup or higher revised codes, changes in the law. So that's the majority of those policies. An alumni association, they met on April 14th, talked about the pancake breakfast and how well they felt everything went during the celebration. Coming up June 21st, they are looking for sponsors for the golf outing and also people to golf. So if you are interested in golfing or sponsoring a hole or sponsoring some part of that, you can get out on the Alumni Association website or on their Facebook page so that you can sign up that way. I believe there are also flyers. I don't know if there's any in the board office or,
I believe
schools.
it's on our community webpage, is
Yeah.
it not?
Not the golf outing.
Yeah, if you have a flyer, I could also post it at Painesville Country Club.
Yeah, they have not sent that to me.
Offers a variety of education.
Okay,
Right.
but if you, do you have a flyer? Because,
For the golf outing?
yeah,
I do not.
okay.
No, they have not
I don't
sent
know if
that
I
to
could
me.
I had a
get some.
personal invite, I don't know if there was a flyer attached to it, because if you played the previous year, they sent you an email.
Yeah,
So I
if
got
there's
that.
some kind of flyer, we're trying to get
Right.
sponsorships, if we could get
We
something,
can
that
reach
would be
out.
helpful.
I'll talk to them about getting some for the schools too. in
It
case
should be on
somebody
the
wants to pick it
website,
up.
I think we can
Yeah,
pull them off.
it's all
the-
on the
Yeah,
website.
it's on the
Yeah,
webpage.
it's just that,
Yep,
you know, if you don't see a posting, a lot of times, you know, when you go to a golf course, you have this posting of all the tournaments and different things. I hate to miss that opportunity.
we can get them up.
Okay.
That is it.
Booster Organizations Liaison.
So Lamouth is having a night at the races this weekend in downtown Painesville. They have an AMSCO meeting on the 28th, and their spring dance after school is being held on May 2nd. Melridge has their Glow Dance, which is their father-daughter dance tomorrow. They have Sun Plus One bowling on Saturday. Parkside has their mother-son event on May 9th. Dr. Rotino has a conversation with the community at Parkside scheduled for May 19th. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Riverview, would I have anything for the month of May? The district egg hunt was a success 2 weeks ago. It was over in 3 minutes, and then four.
Longer this year.
It took
again.
longer.
There's a slide on that too.
It was a really, really great.
It was
event.
400% longer than
Right.
last year.
Yeah, I think one comment I heard from, and I don't know how this can be accommodated, one comment I heard from a number of individuals was to try and keep the parents from helping the kids get the eggs. Good luck with that.
Good luck.
Right, I don't know how that works.
I don't want to give away any secrets, but I was telling some of the younger kids to go into the older
Yeah.
sections because there wasn't as many older kids.
Well, there you go. So,
Strategy.
Yeah, they
a
play
number of booster groups will be having golf outings over the summer. Maybe if they can reach out and get the flyers to the district, that would be great. I've seen some posted online. The Gridirons mulch sale is coming up, and I believe this is the last week to place orders for mulch. So if you want mulch put down, contact the Gridiron and go look at their website or Facebook page for that. I know that someone had reached out from RBI Club and commented on the excellence of the playing fields, so thank you to our maintenance staff and Mr. Olesic for getting that done for them. They were even able to host something for another district because they couldn't hold games. So that is a huge accomplishment. The fact that they're happy and emailing us that they're happy is excellent. So that's all I have. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Grassi. Superintendent's report.
Okay, so we'll start with the not so fun stuff. And that is, I don't know if Mr. Patrice is going to steal Mr. Placco's thunder, but I know that there's talk about the financial piece of the state, of the House budget's version of the state Bannon budget. I just wanted to mention some of the policy things that they put in there. I always find this interesting to see kind of what nuances they throw into the budget. I picked out some that really, truly impact us and take away some of the purpose of why the language is in there. The first is, one of the things I was really excited about was in the governor's version, there was the principal apprenticeship program, which was funded by the state to allow teachers who want to be principals to perform an apprenticeship and get their license at that time. It was a supplemental funded, the district would be responsible for the teacher's salary, but there's a supplemental that goes with it. And the schooling and all that would have been funded by the state. That funding has been removed, but they've kept the program. So they say if you want it, you have to pay for it. And it kind of steals the thunder of the program a little bit. There is a principal shortage across the state, but I think this was a way to really get those who are interested in what the job is to truly see what the job is, but yet still have a teaching job if it's not for them. It also removes the requirement that district reports the number of individuals who completed the science of reading training to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. We have to have it all done, but apparently the House thinks we don't have to report it to anybody. So for those who haven't done it, I don't know what that means, because at one point it was a requirement for keeping your license. So I wouldn't encourage anyone to kind of hold their hats on this, because come July 1st, it'll probably get put back in there. But it's something that the House did not feel that it was important at that point. So I just thought, again, just a unique thing that comes up with there. The one thing I'm glad to see is it does eliminate the governor's proposal that uses a state diagnostic in grades K through 3. We would have to pay for that, but the state would pick what we'd have to pay for. So we currently use MAP as ours, but it takes that. The governor was going to say that they would use state pricing for the reading diagnostic. We use MAP for both reading and math. And it may not be MAP, it may be a different one that we're not familiar with. We're not familiar with how to use it. We're not familiar with the data reports means. So it would be a large learning curve. So I am happy that local control has been given back with that. It does remove the requirement that districts implement the kindergarten readiness assessment. This is another unique one because they change this all the time, but it takes the KRA out. I'm not sure why. They just said, well, we don't need it anymore, so we're going to take it out. And it's the first. They've just recently changed that diagnostic that has to be implemented within the first few days of school. It's one of the things we do in the very opening days as part of orientation, and then the first couple of days after that. It also requires the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce to establish a system comparing voucher students with data systems and students in nearby schools. So it does provide accountability for those on vouchers and a system for that. I think that's a good thing always. I'm all for, let's get judged on the same playing field. I've always believed that. And finally, requires districts to excuse, this is another unique one. There's a lot in this, in both the governor's and this about driver's education and the push for 16-year-olds and high school students to get their license and for schools to help facilitate that. So this one actually requires districts to excuse up to 8 hours, 2 hours over 4 days, the absence of a high school student to attend private driver education course. Districts must allow students to make up any missed assignments, specifically in the budget that we have to provide driver's education waivers. I don't know where this is going, but it's really out there, especially since driver's ed and those hours are actually online and available online for a lot of students as well. So I'm not sure where this is going. It's just a unique one. I'm not sure who got that one put in, but I thought it was, well, it's one just to share that those are some of the things that make their way into the budget. We'll see what happens when it comes out, not only when the Senate releases theirs, but also when it comes out at the end. The funding stuff, which is really a lot of fun, will come up later. Another thing we are excited about, Riverside is joining the Greater Cleveland Conference, beginning with the 26 and 27 school year. So not this year, but the year after. The GCC consists of teams from Brunswick, Cleveland Heights, Euclid, Lorraine, Mentor, Riverside, Shaker Heights, and Strongsville. Those are our league schools, and we'll allow all of our athletes to compete in league tournaments and for league championships. We're still going to play the local schools around as non-conference games, but when we talk about conference play, we have a schedule. It makes our scheduling a whole lot easier, and again, it provides more opportunities for our students. We were voted unanimously to join as well. We are going to remain in the Western Reserve for the 25-26 school year, but that is the last year right now of the Western Reserve, and then all of the schools have left. We were the last one standing in the Western Reserve, so I think we keep the naming rights, but I have to check on that. So athletic conferences right now are, to be honest, they're a mess. So we'll see what happens with that. But we're excited to have a home, and we thank the GCC for accepting us into it. We want to remind the community that they can come hear my mug in person. The last one of those this year is May 19th at Parkside. These have been great meetings, really good kind of feedback. Great to have those. Thank you for those who have come out to listen and hear what all the great things going on, shifted to those things who are coming up, and then ask questions as they might have it as to the things that are coming up. So I know this has been talked about, but here are the pictures from the junior and senior hiring fair. It was April 11th. We did have 21 businesses on hand to interview students interested in joining the workforce immediately upon graduation. Nearly 100 students signed up to attend and be a part of it. Great opportunities coming up. The Spring Carnival was the April 12th. This was at Lamuth, and thanks to all the families who attended for fun games and activities. This event raised $1,500 for NHS scholarships in the Lake County Council on Aging. So our NHS does typically give a portion of the money they do back to a local nonprofit, and this year they chose the County on Aging. As mentioned, the Easter egg hunt was there. This was a special one. Thank you to all the families who attended. It was packed as always. Our softball team was playing at the same time, and softball thought they were going to have a sold-out crowd, just to be stunned by they forgot the Easter hunt was out there. The Easter egg hunt was out there. Thank you to RPTA for sponsoring. We did do a staggered start because we lost the bullhorn. So we started with the Easter Bunny on one side and walked him across, and you couldn't start till the Easter Bunny made it into your zone. And that was all good till we got to the little kid zone. It was packed, and we had to walk the bunny out for safety, for his own safety. So we had to exit a little bit from a different path. But it was a great time, and we had by far the longest line of people to get their picture taken with the beaver and the bunny at the end. It was really long. So The whole event took a lot longer than normal because families stayed around. It was a great day. Did not snow, so it was I take that as a win.
It's good.
And you have a focus on 2 people in this picture.
There are. Nonprofit fair on April 16th. Side leadership and our side group, they're amazing. They've also put on a Recognizing RHS podcast. Those students coordinated and hosted a nonprofit fair for our campus students to learn about local nonprofits and how they give back to the community. We want to thank Sub-Zero Mission, United Way, NAMI, Torchlight, Lake County Metro Parks, and the Salvation Army for participating in this. Hopefully they got some volunteers from this to work over the summer and earn their volunteer seal as well. So the community service seal as a part of it, but really having those, here's some ideas of how Riverside can give back. And that's a focus of all of our areas. Craft show is this Saturday from 9 to 3. It's in the gym. There is a $3 admission fee. It's a really neat opportunity. Proceeds, again, benefit the Lake County Council on Aging and their NHS scholarships. And then we'll have a ton of local vendors who are there. So kindergarten registration, we are in the middle of kindergarten registration right now. We have 131 students who are currently registered for this event. One of those things coming up is a kindergarten kickoff, and that, I believe, was it
May 7th.
May 7th. This was an event started last year by our kindergarten teachers in which parents and students can come and kind of just speak with the teachers, view the rooms, kind of have a general overview. One thing that is shifting, we've talked about this in programs as well as at the table a little bit, is how we are starting the year for kindergarten. So there are some changes to next year's schedule in terms of kindergarten specifically. The dates are all the same, but how we roll out. We are going to do a kindergarten camp. And the premise of this is all the kindergartners come together, the teachers get to meet those students, and then from them, they get to interact with the students, see how the students interact with each other, and classes will be assigned during the camp week and not ahead of time. So kindergarten classes, so all kindergartners will show up during the first couple of days, then they will go on to the normal schedule, which is outlined in the new calendar. It's something that our kindergarten teachers are excited about. We think it's going to be a great opportunity. It's going to make us really unique. And one of the really cool things is the last day of kinder camp when they have these classes decided. I believe they're going to send them off with almost like in honor of tonight's in the NFL draft. Not necessarily you're the last drafted, but you're on this team and you're on this team, and they send them down that way, and all the other students in the building will clap and cheer and kind of have a big celebration for it. So it's a really neat opportunity that we have, and something that we are excited to pilot and to really try and roll out this year, especially with our kindergarten enrollment. If you haven't enrolled for kindergarten, please do so sooner rather than later, so we can plan for you and make sure that we have appropriate staffing. That's there. Wednesday, May 14th, we will have our annual military signing day. We honor those who have made their commitment to one of the armed services. It's at 1 p.m. at the Wall of Honor inside of the Riverside Stadium. All board members, you are invited to attend. Please do so. This event's open to the public, as well as we honor any senior who has committed, signed their letter of intent to commit to the military services following graduation. And that concludes my report.
So are they getting a sorting hat?
Oh, it's so exciting.
It's so cool.
We call Wednesday
Like,
reveal day. It is a little bit, yeah, like that, but yes, they'll get something that tells them which classroom they're in.
We're not sure what the trinket is. We thought about changing the t-shirts, but the t-shirts are from the board, so we're going to keep the traditional class of a long time from now t-shirt. And but there will be something that is there for the reveal day, so it's going to be really exciting.
Okay, I have a couple questions about the state budget
Yeah.
changes. With the science of reading, a lot of our staff has already gone through it.
They've gone through it.
Paid to do it. The
It's-
state
it's-
reimbursed us.
The states reimburse us. It is all tied to that. I don't know why they put that in there. It doesn't make any sense, but they threw it in there. I'm not sure.
So are we still in the midst of some people needing
We
training?
have some who haven't completed it yet. They have some time yet. I have till the end of, I will self-report that I'm one of
It
them.
is, we're gonna send reminders out to teachers too.
But-
to have
Okay.
just
I-
those that haven't.
I don't see that one staying out of the budget. I think that's an easy, that they'll take it out. But I thought it's just one of those where
Unusual.
it doesn't make sense why they're doing it, but it's one of those where they throw these kind of trinkets in and say, figure it out.
Okay. And then on the kindergarten readiness assessment, KRA, are we still going to do that for screening purposes? Or,
I don't know. That's a good question because that's a funded test by the state. So if it goes offline and they take it away, we're not gonna have
yeah, you
it.
couldn't do it.
So they changed it again this year too. It's a new format as well. There's two options. There's a long and a short.
Yeah.
And I think everyone defaults to the short unless you say, no, I'll take more torture.
Okay, yeah, and they're just little
but
kids.
Yeah, again, it's one that, I don't know.
Mhm.
Because that's one of the diagnostics for, are you ready for kindergarten? And typically it can count as your reading on track, off track for the guarantee. So you still have to give some sort of benchmark. But
Okay. I just wondered.
yeah,
All right, thank you.
Okay. Treasurer's report and committee update. We have the Finance Audit and Personnel Committee, Insurance Optimization Ad Hoc Committee, Legislative Liaison.
Okay. We held our meeting on April 17th. Personnel updates, again, typical turnover and postings for newer replacement positions. The summer latchkey camp sold out across all 4 buildings with around 100 students enrolled. That sold out very quickly, I understand, in less than a couple hours or something like that, so that's a very popular event. The staff has been offered opportunities for substitute custodial projects over the summer, and response has exceeded the available positions. This is, staff can participate in all kinds of activities that the maintenance director has for them to do that really fills a need to get some things taken care of over the summer. And the student job fair went well. Everybody's talked about that already. The board discussions, agenda discussions included mention of various contracts recommended for approval, the RLEA memorandum of understanding, special needs rave coordinator, and retirement adjustments.
that one is not on the agenda because they just changed it again. So we need to work through it. So they last Friday, or Thursday, STRS voted and reduced the minimum age, the minimum years of service from 33 to 32. When they typically do that, they typically do it for the next year. They did it beginning June 1st. So it's a huge change to a lot of people. And so we did not have anything prepared because it could be impactful.
I saw, they changed to 32.
They changed it to 32
Yeah,
and
that's what I saw, it was
it starts,
32.
so this year, there are 3 cohorts of educators who are retiring. Those with 32 years, or eligible for retirement, those with 32 years, those with 33 years, and those with 34 years.
So let me ask a silly question, because we have a fund set aside that we've been transferring money to. Will we have sufficient dollars in that fund to cover?
Working through that math right now based
Yeah.
on the number of people that.
We don't have, we probably don't have all of the potential retirements at this point, because people have to check and see what all that means to them before they,
We don't.
Right.
So trying to get an appointment even to talk with STRS about
It's
that
gonna be a
is
joke.
in the middle of June, and that was Monday. I think it's even farther out than that. We typically have a date on to when we need it by, so it's working with some of these people, having some, obviously truly compassion to them. It's a huge decision you have to make in under a month.
and when do we ask to know by?
We at April 1st, so it's a shift, and we're working with RLEA to make sure that we get what we need from them and make sure that we kind of hit these things and truly identify those who are in this situation to say this is your chance from that point. So I think it's a it's a really big, it's a real collaborative effort from between myself and Mr. Ozinger, really trying to go through with them and trying to figure out who. But then we currently only have years earned at Riverside. We don't have total years. So those are all, and then other years that are transferable from other state pension funds depending. So we're working to try to get all of those together to say who
How
fits.
do we get all that?
They give it
Does
to us.
SDRS give it to you?
No, the employees do.
Okay.
So we have some language in this new one to kind of look at what that is, and we worked for all of that to make sure that it works. It was a huge curveball that happened.
Okay, many more curveballs to come.
Can't wait.
Okay. The Health Insurance Optimization Committee, I think we've kind of wrapped up our work. We finalized the contract details for coverage and services, and those will be approved tonight. DCW has already started their work. I'd like to say thanks to all on the committee for their work and cooperation and collaboration in seeing this transition in health insurance coverage, and I'd especially like to thank Bill Robertson for all his help that he's lended to us on that with his expertise in that particular segment of health insurance. So I think we're off to a good start, and once again, thanks to all, and especially to Bill Robertson. We went over some revised budget figures, and they show the P&I fund for the current fiscal year will end positive, but it will be the lowest it's been. But we will see increases in the years ahead, but there will be a dip, although still positive in fiscal year 2028 when the football field turf is replaced. Legislative liaison, the budget negotiations are ongoing in the state legislature with proposed changes in funding. This will affect the amounts the district receives, but all is still subject to change, so we'll know when we know. So that's it.
Thank you for that. Update from the treasurer.
Okay. So our monthly financial reports, like we normally do, they're all available on the board docs along with being on the treasurer's page. Total cash balance for all our funds is just under $47 million, and within that, general fund makes up about 32 million of that, 31 million. Our PI fund, as Mr. Keeney was just mentioning, currently at 7.9 million. 2.1 of it is currently encumbered. So that means we have purchase orders out to vendors. 5.7 is not, although that's just waiting for a lot of the construction projects to give us an actual number, and then once that happens, we'll start issuing purchase orders out for that. Appropriations and revenue estimates. We're 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year. Revenue is just under 93%, and expenditures are under at 71%. I do want to mention, at least, because that 92 might stick out, because of how we collect our monies throughout the year, we get like 2 big spikes when we collect taxes. March, April is one of those spikes, and so we'll be at 92, but then you all start to see it kind of, even back out as the rest of the year goes on. So, just a little bit more on that, which I just mentioned with the property tax. In the month of March, we received both our settlement in advance. We collected $18 million, almost $19 million for the taxes. In total, we were just under $22 million. Like I said, that's an unusual amount for us because it's, like I said, twice a year we normally see that kind of spike. But we do ride that out throughout the entire rest of the year. Interest revenue, just around $104,000. Star investment rates at 4.48%. And our expenditures for the month of March were a little over $4.7 million. So without feeling Mr. Flacco's thunder, I guess I could give like a teaser trailer approach to it. Want to leave it in there, but as been mentioned, the House released their version earlier this month, and at least from a financial standpoint, it's not good for public education. One piece of it is they are not continuing, currently in there is not to continue the phase-in of the Fair School Funding Plan. I believe they're in the last 2 years of funding that, and if it stays like it is, the last 2 years will not happen. The other big piece that's out there is the 30% cash balance carryover limit that's been put into place, and that's based on the general fund expenditures from the prior fiscal year, that you cannot carry more than 30% of that number over. So, and then the county budget commission at that point also then has the ability, if you do go over that, to send that money back to the taxpayers and take it away from the school district. So, and then one other piece, normally we've had the 5-year forecast for, I'm not sure how many years, but it will establish a 3-year forecast, which based on that 30% piece, if you go out 5, it's not gonna look pretty when it comes to that, mainly because of how we collect our money with levies and whatnot. Just touching on that 30% piece, currently, if you look, if they took this back to last year, at the end of fiscal year 24, our cash balance would have been at 47.6%. Within the entire state, 485 out of the 609 school districts exceeded that number. And we do have a chart on there. You can kind of see how our cash balance and the percentage as it goes throughout the year. January, February is usually our lowest when it comes to the cash balance, and then like I said, March, April, when we get our tax collections, it spikes back up. But in our case, if that 30% was in place as of the end of last year, they would have taken about $8 million from the district. And like I said, in February, I think our low balance was 10 million. So we would have been at 2 million and hoping to get payroll, make sure we have enough for payroll in there, so.
One of the problematic things with this specifically to us is we have a cash balance policy. And 30% is roughly, 3 months? And that's a challenge to that policy, and it puts us in a real true bind to where that is. The other part that it doesn't necessarily make sense is it's a 1-year reprieve, and then the next year they go right back up, if not higher. So the taxpayers who are getting the relief aren't necessarily going to see it as is it making an impact on property taxes for it's a temporary Band-Aid, and then they go right back up to where they were, because that's exactly what we would collect back. So it's not a permanent fix or a permanent solution to the problem that's there. And that's everything. It's concerning as to where it goes. The other part that I've heard is districts that are collecting money through not through property taxes, like we had talked about potentially doing an income tax, an earned income tax, so it doesn't necessarily benefit our seniors or burden our seniors anymore. That would actually, if it were above, if we still carried over 30%, all of that money would still go back in property tax relief, even though we collected any new funds through income tax. So there's some real concerns with what this is, and it's something that we are watching closely. We are advocating and working with our groups to make sure that we advocate on behalf of. This is very complicated for districts, especially those who work so hard to stretch a levy out like we have. We're getting a lot of years out of the last operating levy, and this would put us to the ballot a whole lot quicker and a whole lot more often.
So just on that note, probably everyone knows who Tony Pautagella is, and so I had another conversation with him a couple days ago. And so we were talking about this, and he's going to be testifying, and of course he's talking with people regularly. And so, we talked about what things look like, where things are going, and of course what it's going to do. As a school board, obviously what we have to do is take what the legislature gives us, and we have to do the best job with it. And this doesn't look like it's going to be any fun, doesn't look like it's going to be helpful to what our thoughts and ideas and goals are. And part of talking with Tony is to try and mitigate that 30% and move that up to try and make it a little easier, ease the pain a little bit. And so anyway, yeah, we're going to stay in communication and talk with some people to see where it might go.
He said the average is around 50% across the state. And the other part to that as well is this impacts our ability to certify 3-year contracts with our negotiating groups from our treasurer. And that's a huge deal, because that's every year back at the table.
Right, so all that's going to be on, for discussion and on the table, and there'll probably be some adjustments made. We, obviously,
I believe
we're going to know
yeah.
pretty soon, because this is going to, this bill will probably be signed next month.
So I find it interesting, and I just want to share, the state has an almost $4 billion rainy day fund. And always tax relief comes back to school districts to provide the tax relief instead of coming back to the state, and the state is not going to impose a 30% give back to its taxpayers, or
School
whatever it
districts
is.
are the only
Like
ones.
they're not going to give back money to the taxpayers of the state, but yet they expect school districts to give back money to the state. I think that's interesting. I also find it interesting that they've gone from a 5-year forecast to a 3-year forecast. We've said that for years because you can't predict the biennium budget. However, I believe taking it from 5 years down to 3 years is going to hide the detrimental effect of what they're doing. And mind you, I think that is purposeful. And so I just want to put that out there, that when you look at that information, there's a reason why they're taking that 5-year down to 3-year, because they don't want you to see the results of the impact of what that give back is going to look like.
Well, sure, years 4 and 5 would always be in the negative, right?
Right, and it
Then you have
doesn't,
to
none of this
file.
takes into account what where they are in the levy cycle. When you're on the front end of your levy cycle, obviously, you're always collecting more dollars. When you're on the tail end of your levy cycle, you're usually deficit spending, so we might not have that much cash left. I think it's just really a poor piece of legislation in there.
Also, logistically, it takes away our opportunity to focus on what really matters in teaching and learning and making sure that our students are prepared for the world, because we're busy negotiating and working to make sure that we have money and levy cycles and all that comes with that. So it's not that we're allowed to push for levies, but if that were, you're on the ballot more and more, so those questions come up and you're doing the factual representations and all that. It just focuses your energies elsewhere than where they should be.
It's my understanding too that it impacts schools that are considered wealthy different than it does those schools that maybe get monthly or regular checks from the
It
state.
does,
So
it absolutely does, because we only get ours twice a year in property taxes, so we don't get a huge burden from, or a huge portion from state funding. Those who are higher state funded, they see theirs on an annual, monthly basis, so they're
they
using
might stay
theirs.
under the
They-
30%. Yeah.
And it's my understanding that initially that was 25%.
Right.
So then it went to 30. But then in talking to Tony Potagill, I'm hoping that they can keep getting that figure up there.
His
Because-
belief is there's going to be a figure in there. There'll be something, because tax relief is property tax relief is something that is a priority. But he is afraid to throw out a number, because if you throw out a number that's too low, then they just take it and run with it and say, well, you said that. So he's working towards that.
Along with Ms. Grassi was mentioning, school districts are the only ones that are being affected by this. No other government entities are. And one other area that is out there is bond rating was potentially
Oh, yeah, the bond
an issue
rating.
because of not having cash balance on hand. So for anybody that's doing projects or whatnot, you could have a lesser bond rating. So, Mr. Placco, probably will still, we have a work session on Monday. He wanted to kind of go into it again there because it obviously plays into the long range forecast. So
you know, that if he had spoken with Purcell to be there Monday, because I think he was in New York.
I believe,
I believe
well, I
he
was
is
told that
scheduled
he's
to be
supposed to be
Yeah,
there.
because he was in New York, couldn't come for this meeting, and
Yeah, he's supposed to be there on Monday.
supposed to come Monday.
Thank you.
And then, of course, the whole reason he's coming is to talk about what kind of loan we'd be looking at and what the rates, I mean, not firmly are, because you don't know, but about what they are and how many years we'd be looking at and that sort of thing, so. All right, well, thank you for that. We are into public comment. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the board president. Speakers are requested to speak from the podium, identify themselves and their topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Okay, we have a consent agenda for finance and audit.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve items A through R listed on the finance audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer. Could I get a second, please?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Garrett, Mike, could you take the roll?
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consent agenda, personnel.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the items A through G listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. Do I have a second?
No second.
Any discussion?
Congratulations to Mrs. Vernon and Mrs. Aiken on their retirement.
Okay. Mike, would you like to take the roll?
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye. Motion carried. Consent agenda, curriculum and programming.
All right. Make a motion to approve items A through F listed on the curriculum and programming consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Could you please call the roll?
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney.
Aye.
We have consent agenda, buildings and grounds. And
A through D.
yeah, make a motion to approve the items listed on the buildings and grounds operations consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. And that would be A through D. Can I get a second?
Second.
Can you take the roll, please?
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster.
Aye.
Motion carried. Policy agenda.
Resolution to approve the adoption of new and revised board policies as listed in item A.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Can you call the roll, please?
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
and Linda Grassi.
Aye.
We have a resolution to approve the adoption of new and revised board policy as listed in item B.
I'll second.
Ms. Grassi, second.
Any discussion? Can you call roll, please?
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Nay.
Lori Krenski.
Aye.
Motion carried. Board of Education business, Armor Linings, resolution to approve a purchase order with Armor Linings, Inc. for the undercoating of 50 school buses at a total cost of $18,125. Get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Is this the company that our transportation director wanted to work with?
This is the company that we took the buses to the last time. Mr. Fischel did get the quote from Arner. It's the Crown Company as well. It's the same one in Western Pennsylvania. I contacted the Crown Company in Akron to get the quote, and the numbers were the same.
But my question is this the company that Mr. Andre preferred to use?
I actually don't have that answer, to be honest.
Well, who did he propose last year, I guess?
So he had both of them out last year, and he said, we did not ask him to which one was a preference at this point. This came to going down.
Is there, I'm just curious why this is separate and why it wasn't in the
It
buildings and
is
grounds?
coming from Mr. Fischel to put on the agenda.
Mike, can you call the roll?
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Nay.
Lori Krenski,
Nay.
Scott Fishel.
Aye. Motion carried. LLB Resources, resolution to approve the First Amendment to a consulting services agreement between the Riverside Local School District Board of Education and LLB Resources LLC, effective April 24, 2025 through March 19, 2026. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I did not see the amendment. What is the actual amendment?
I'll be happy to answer that question. It's in the paragraph 2, entitled Scope of Services. And the original contract said, for the purpose of regularly distributing board communications, this is the preparation of the email address or of adult residents. And what was added to this was, and to provide other services as described in Appendix A. And you'll see Appendix A attached to the agreement. It's as directed, by the way.
Can I ask you, like, we just approved this the board just approved this,
Yeah.
not unanimously, whatever, the board approved it 2 months ago, 2 meetings ago. So why wasn't all this included at that time? I mean, it was approved. Did nobody read it?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it,
I know,
So-
I read it, I understand.
so yes, I read it.
I guess I'm asking, like, why would the board have approved it if they wanted to just amend it in a month? Or did they just not have it done at that time?
I mean, I think that's my responsibility. I prepared it based on what I thought the scope of work was, based on everything that I knew. Then there was some confusion recently. In the last couple of weeks, I got a couple of inquiries about, the scope of services that were agreed to, and then I realized that what I had prepared was overly narrow.
Well, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I guess what I'm asking is the board members read the contract as it was presented for the board meeting, and if they didn't like it, why did they approve it?
And I guess what we're doing is bringing back in the proposal, so the scope of consulting services is now increased to create and implement community engagement strategies, create, review, and revise district policies, create press releases and provide counsel with media interactions, create newsletters and email campaigns, incident and crisis management plans.
So these are the possible
Right, so it leaves us
services.
wide open again,
So it would just be as directed. So-
but it's out there.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
It's a broader scope of work, for sure.
And it's now for a 1-year term with no dollar amount, no limit, at $250 an hour.
I mean, that's true, it could be canceled with 7 days advance notice. There has to be a purchase order issued by the treasurer. So there are checks in place, but ultimately, this is a fee-for-service arrangement.
Mike, can you take the roll, please?
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Nay.
Lori Krenisky,
Nay.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
and Dennis King.
Aye.
Motion carried. We have vouchers, Herd Ohio resolution to approve joining vouchers, Herd Ohio. I move to postpone to the next regular board meeting. Can I get a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Why, don't we have to do that at the beginning of the meeting?
No.
No, this is subsidiary motion, so it can be made at this point of the discussion, and the discussion can include, you know, the underlying motion, the object motion, the original motion it's sometimes called, and this new motion.
So can I ask why we're postponing that?
I just think it's-
Nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I just think it's good to postpone it, and so I'm making a motion to do that. We have a second.
So again, I'm gonna ask again. Okay, all right, I'll second. Like, I'm
No,
just
it's been
Oh,
seconded, but
fine.
thank you.
I'm just, again, questioning, that's not a reason just because I want to postpone it. I'm asking, what is your reason for postponing it?
I think it's a good idea to postpone it.
Okay, thank
Why?
you.
I think it's a good idea to postpone.
Okay, I'm gonna, so, it's just to have some discussion on vouchers for Ohio.
We're not allowed to have that discussion. We
Why
can only
not?
discuss the motion to postpone to the next regular meeting. We can't say whether it's a good or a bad item,
I didn't, I'm
following
not
the Roberts Rules of Orders.
saying whether or
and
not it's a
discuss
good or
that.
bad item.
So, Mr. McIntyre, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say that whether to postpone it to a certain time can include some discussion, not a full discussion, but just some discussion as to why postponing it, the underlying motion, would not be a good idea. That necessarily involves some discussion of the underlying motion, that's fine. But when there's a motion to postpone to a certain time on the table, we have to be limited in,
That's okay,
Yeah.
I don't need to actually discuss it. I would like to pass out some information on what the lawsuit entails, what the purpose of it is.
Yeah, it's just not permitted. I mean, if you want to leave.
It's not
leave in-
permitted
you-
to
if you
pass
wanna-
out information.
If you want to leave information for people to pick up, you can do that, but you can't do that right now. We have to vote on this. We have to vote on this. So certainly, information for everyone can be available.
So
okay.
so you don't want the board members to be informed about what,
Is that what I said?
Well, that's who she was gonna give the information
Okay.
to.
that's all right.
So anyone that wants the information, certainly it could be available. And after the meeting, you can hand it out to everybody. That'd be wonderful.
I
That'd
just
be
want-
good.
Thank you.
Mike, can you take the roll?
This is to postpone to a future meeting, so.
To the next regular
To the
board
next
meeting.
next week.
Okay, not a special meeting, but specifically a next regular
Next,
board meeting.
yes.
Belinda Grassi,
Nay.
Lori Krenisky,
Nay.
Scott Fishel,
Aye,
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster.
Aye.
motion carried. Board of Education update. Any
Sure.
update information?
I have some. So I attended a conference the weekend of April 5th. Attended 2 sessions on vouchers for Ohio. Got some signs for everybody. They're really awesome. I'll pass them out. You can each have one. I'm a fan of public schools. The 2 sessions related to vouchers for Ohio,
Chris, you want one?
specifically,
For Mike?
one of them he had to do with what the lawsuit was all about, and the second was why it's important to be involved and join this coalition. As just a general rule, again, I'm going to pass this out so that people can understand what the lawsuit entails. So just as part of my board update, you can have one of these. It's a really great article from the Capital Journal that outlines what the 4 complaints are in the lawsuit. It gives information on what that all means. As part of this conference that I went to, most of it was about advocacy, how to be a better advocate for your school. I'm going to pass out some things, advocacy survival kit that I collected. It was a really, really valuable, I thought, opportunity to go and be involved with national organizations who are all about public education. There were, every state was represented in some way, shape, or form. There were legislators from every state at the event. The speakers were phenomenal, and I will tell you that one of the keynote speakers was Kurt Russell, who, not the actor Kurt Russell, but the Teacher of the Year Kurt Russell. It always makes me laugh when I say that, but he was, if you can ever get him for a PD day, he would be a fabulous. His presentation was so good. But it was just really great being around individuals who are all like-minded in support of public education. I also just wanted to make a statement about the national organizations that represent teachers. So the 2 large organizations in union representation for teachers are spending phenomenal amounts of money supporting public education. And I don't care what side of the fence you sit on when you talk about unions. I was impressed that they were out there advocating and helping organizations. It was crazy to see the amount of advocacy that goes on and the amount of underlying participation and the hard work and legwork that people are doing to advocate for public education. It was a valuable experience for me, so thanks for allowing me to attend.
Thank you for that. Anything else?
I wanted to also reiterate that Bill Robertson spent a lot of time and effort trying to get us a better insurance deal for our district. The history there was that we had been with the consortium, and it's my understanding that the rates raised tremendously and was going to have a major impact on our budget. So thank you, as community members, stepping up and helping us on that.
Mr. Robertson, what was the increase this year?
23%.
22? 23?
We haven't saved any money yet. All that we've done is we have put the district in a position to have more flexibility. So when you're locked in with the consortium, you can only offer consortium plans, but the district is large enough that they can stand on their own, and that's a good business decision. It gives them more flexibility. It means that they can look at a supplier different from the consortium. So while a consortium may be good for a number of the districts, it could be a situation where Riverside was better served to be with a different organization. So with the number of employees that they have, the consortium doesn't offer any value, and in fact there's some disadvantages. So this is just sort of step one to allow the district to have the flexibility to pick the best choices for their staff and get the optimal costs.
And none of the cost nor coverage has changed for anybody.
Right.
That's all the same.
Right.
Thank you for that. Next meeting announcement, Board of Education work session, Monday, April 28th, 5 p.m. Buckeye Ad Hoc Committee meeting, April 29th, 2 p.m. Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, May 15th, 8 a.m. Board of Education meeting, May 22nd, 5 p.m.
Yeah,
Okay,
we can do
that
yes, we
email
didn't
went
talk
out.
about that.
Ms. Grassi, are you okay with 5 a.m. on the May 22nd?
5 a.m.?
No,
Sure.
5 p.m.
We'll be there.
And
Dan, you coming?
Ms. Krasinski?
Yeah, I already responded to Dr.
Okay.
Rotino.
All right, so
5 p.m. Perfect. Thank you all.
you're in.
All right.
All right, and the curriculum meeting is not scheduled until June.
So yeah, it won't be on
Yeah.
this list.
I just wanted to let,
All right, so real good on that. And then we'll be setting in other buildings and grounds that'll most likely be on May 20th, as we typically have followed that schedule,
That Tuesday before,
Tuesday before. And so if you want to just set that
May 20th,
Put it in.
7:30.
in place, yes. Okay, going to adjourn to executive session. Be it resolved that the Riverside Local School District Board of Education hereby adjourns to executive session at 8:05 PM to discuss personnel matters relating to the employment of public officials in the Riverside Local School District Board of Education, hereby designates all matters discussed in this executive session as strictly confidential, and finds that this designation is warranted because of the status of these matters and the need to preserve confidentiality to properly conduct the business of this Board of Education.
Mr. Official,
Yes,
I need to ask Mr. Mayor, it's employment and discipline.
employment and discipline, so we'll add that, thank you so much. And can I get a second?
second.
Can you call the roll?
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. Off we go.